Are you ready to roll, Tess?
Yes, I'm ready. Well, it looks like I'm about to start a Booktube channel. Welcome, everybody. Hello from near and far. I don't know who possibly could find their place to see this video, but that is a complete mystery to me. But however you did, I'm glad you're here. And I'm Terry Klein, and this is my inaugural episode of my new Booktube channel, which is called TK Talks Books and. The and in the title of my channel is to give myself the permission to occasionally talk about a great film I saw or a great play or some other event in the arts world here in Minnesota. So that's the title of my channel, and I'm very excited and a little nervous, so bear with me. First, I would like to say, who am I? Who is Terry Klein? Well, here I am in Minnesota. You can see maybe out the window we have a little bit of snow, but not nearly as much as we always do. We barely have any snow. There's maybe 1 inch out there, so it's been a very unusual winter. Not cold, not snowy, just kind of meh. So looking forward to more snow. So I grew up in Wisconsin and spent most of my adult life in Minnesota, and with a 12-year hiatus in the Bay Area of California. But I consider myself a Midwestern person, a Minnesotan. So who am I? I am an introvert. I'm a very strong introvert. My whole life I have loved reading. I am a writer. I am recently, during the pandemic, have taken up painting, and tried to teach myself with the help of YouTube to become a watercolorist, which I painted every single day for over a year. And oh my goodness, it has been such a thrill. It allows me so much focus. And so I love painting. Reading is the hallmark of who I am. So that's basically who I am. I'm a mother. I have 2 daughters, 2 grown-up daughters, and I have 5 beautiful grandchildren. The oldest of which is in his 3rd year of college. The next one is in her 1st year of college in New York City. And the other 3 are still little, 10, 11, and 12 years old. So that is a great joy in my life. And of course, my partner, my intrepid tech person sitting here filming me right now. Say hi, Craig.
Hi.
And he's my partner and love of my life. And we are in our little book room in our tiny cottage here in Minnesota. So he will be accompanying me on this journey and taking care of editing and all that great stuff. So I'm very, very grateful to Craig. So why? This is a modified version of the Newbie tag. And the first question on the Newbie tag is, why are you doing this? Why are you doing a Booktube channel? And it's very easy for me to answer this question. About 6 months ago, I discovered Booktube when I was discovering all the Russian writers, short story writers mostly, but also Crime and Punishment and the Brothers Karamazov and some of the big ones, and I needed help with that. So in my Googles, I did a Google search about, I think it was Crime and Punishment, something about the character or a plot point or something, and it brought me to Benjamin McAvoy's Hardcore Literature channel, and I'm like, what is this all about? I was just overcome with joy looking at all his videos, and then the algorithm started sending me other booktubers that I don't know how that works at all. But they started sending me other booktube channels, and I thought, oh my gosh, I've hit the mother lode of joy here. So I started watching, and I came upon so many wonderful channels, and I got so many book recommendations and just joy. Some of the channels are very, very funny, and some have a very calm, beautiful vibe. And so I came to a point where I thought, I just can't keep receiving. I need to somehow pay back. So despite the fact that I'm outside my comfort zone, here I am. And I would like to, forgive me if I have to look a little bit at my notes, because I would like to just I guess I don't need my glasses. I probably do, but I don't like them. I would like to just briefly shout out a few of the booktube channels that have enriched my life to a great degree. Some of them have even transformed my life. It's quite unbelievable. But I will start out with the beautiful vibe on a channel called, oh, forgive me, Roz, if I get this wrong, Scally Dandling, or it might be Scandy Dallying. I'm not something like that. You know who you are, Roz, Scally Dandling, about the books. Adore that channel. Tristan and the Classics, a beautiful, most jolly fellow I've ever seen in my life. Hello, booktube people and the internet. Very, very amazing. Chris at Leaf by Leaf has literally changed my life with some of his recommendations. Bob the Bookerer, I adore him with his in-depth look at the Booker Prize. Brian at Bookish, also a few of his recommendations have been transformational. And Novella and Biblio Sophie have both recommended many works of translated fiction, which have been just absolutely astounding. A newer booktube gentleman, forgive me if I say your name wrong, Dolapo Adekun, I think, Dolapo Adekun, very beautiful vibe, very in-depth, erudite young man. Another one, I just watched her a couple days ago give a beautiful presentation on Mrs. Dalloway, and I would have thought, since it's one of my favorite books, I thought, what am I going to learn about Mrs. Dalloway? But indeed I did. Nicole from A Day of Small Things. Absolutely beautiful, like a master class on how to make a YouTube video. Charlotte Malloy in Bali, love seeing the scenes from Bali. Olive from A Book Olive, with all her nonfiction recommendations, and I love reading nonfiction. Britta Bowler from Germany, amazing, talks about women's authors. Scott from Australia, his channel, I think, is not sure why, is called Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, and he's also very entertaining. And lastly, the one I discovered most recently is Mark Nash, who talks a lot about, if not almost exclusively, about experimental literature, which I do really love. So that is the why. That is why I'm here, to thank these people and countless others who I didn't mention. I just kind of quickly mentioned a few of the standouts. So that is the why. The what is, I'm planning to give a variety of things, but reviews of some standalone reviews of a book, some things that are in a list, like my 5 favorite whatever nonfiction books of the year, or things like that. And as I said, I would sometimes like to mention a favorite movie or play. I love the theater so much. And I would think I'm hoping for 2 videos a week. Probably Wednesday and Friday is the goal right now. We'll see how that goes and how much time it all takes and how much patience Craig has for helping me with all of this. But so that is who I am, what my channel is, why I'm doing it. And the lastly thing I would like to talk about today is to tell you why I am who I am through books. So I would like to quickly, none of this, as you can see, is in-depth anything. It's just kind of a surface level introduction to me and my channel. So I'm going to just go through some books in order of when the impact of them changed my life. So I'm going to start with this time. Here, Craig, or here? Here? Okay. This tiny copy, treasured copy I love so much of Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman, of course. And the reason I'm starting with that is because the day I was born, the die was cast for me to be a reader and a writer, because I was born on the birthday of Walt Whitman, which I try and fit into every single conversation I can because it makes me so delighted. I'm just so delighted to have Walt Whitman, oh my gosh, as a book buddy. So that is number 1. The next one I'm going to have is 2 books from childhood, although I could list 100. It's true of all of these, is Charlotte's Web. I can barely say the words Charlotte's Web without crying. So that's how important this book is to me, and was also to my daughters, Catherine and Abigail. Same with them. At one point, my older daughter was teaching 3rd grade in Washington, D.C. At a very underserved school for Teach America. And I was there one day, and she was reading the last chapter. Oh my gosh, I'm going to cry. She was reading the last chapter of Charlotte's Web to her class, and they were all just gathered right around, sitting on the floor right around her legs. And she started crying at the last sentence, and they all started crying, and they all were hugging. This is obviously we all know Charlotte's Web, but a very, very important book to me and to my family. The next, probably my other favorite children's book, and look, I got this for Christmas. How beautiful is that? Wind in the Willows. I have read this probably, 25 times, at least. And I've recited sections of this book to my family on Christmas Eve. So this is a very special book, and this is a beautiful addition. I just love it so much. It's such a beautiful, the characters, the writing, everything. Kenneth Grahame, gorgeous book. Next, I'm going to, just as a placeholder for Shakespeare, I'm going to have placeholders for certain genres here, but this is just my little tiny copy of Romeo and Juliet. Of course, the first Shakespeare play I read, which most people, is their first play, in 9th grade. I happened to have a really good teacher, and this is just a placeholder. It was mind-boggling to me, the language and the characters, and I would have to talk more about this at a later video about an incredible experience I had about that. Next, I'm going to pick John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath, that I read in about 9th or 10th grade. And it's the first book I think I just was so jaw-dropping to me. And the ending of the book, I was literally sobbing. I think it's the only book I've ever just literally sobbed at. And this is a foundational book for my world view, forming my world view. And John Steinbeck, I think, is an absolutely American classic, and just could not praise him highly enough, including his East of Eden, and I mean all his works I love. So that was amazing. I'm going to use this as a placeholder for, I read all of Annie Dillard's books when I was like in my 30s, I think. I can't remember when they came out, but really enriched my spiritual life. This I'm using as a placeholder for all my poetry. I have an incredibly large book collection of poetry. I adore poetry. I read poetry every day, and this book is like annotated to within an inch of its life. It was a book my book in college. This big beast, The Art of the Personal Essay, edited by Philip Lopate. This is my second copy of this because the first one was in shreds. But this is, I love the personal essay. I am a writer of the personal essay, and it was the first type of work I was a writer of, and this inspired me greatly. Oh, forgive my reaching. James Baldwin, I'm using this as a placeholder for all the James Baldwin, which expanded my world tremendously. Also, I will have Toni Morrison, placeholder. I've read all her works, life-changing. Calvino was one of the writers that I was just astounded. I'm like, what is this all about? I mean, couldn't believe it. The Baron in the Trees was the first of his I read, but I went on to read If on a Winter's Night a Traveler and several others, which I adored. Then, of course, Virginia Woolf. She's one of my top 5 writers of all time, maybe in my top 3. Adore her. Lastly, I'm going to talk about these 3 books as placeholders: The Cherry Orchard, Crime and Punishment, and this incredible book by George Saunders, A Swim in a Pond in the Rain. This is actually his course he teaches on Russian short story writers at University in a book form. This is a treasured book. I read this whole thing, and it's pretty big, twice, and I listened to the Audible version because I wanted to hear his voice, because I am in love with George Saunders. And it was my project during the pandemic to do 2 things. 1, become familiar with the Russian canon, and 2, to learn how to paint. So I'm pretty pleased with how that went. So those are some of the transformational books. I just, had to pick and choose, or I would be sitting here for 5 hours. So again, I will say you are so most warmly welcome here. I can't even believe anyone found their way here, but if you did, hi! I'm just like so happy you're here. And to tell you what's coming up next is the next video I'm going to do will be my top books, my top probably 10, but it might be 11 or 12 because I don't like leaving anything out. The top 10 books of 2023. And the one after that will be, the first one fiction, and the second one would be my top nonfiction books of 2023. And following that, my TBR for the coming year. So I am so grateful that you are here. I'm very pleased to be here on Booktube. And until we meet again, fare thee well.